Afraid of falling deeper. Written by Vero. Read by Vero. Enjoy, guys! He let himself be led by the music, let every part of his body be guided by the beat. His moves were smooth but on point. He needed to be one with the music, one with the flow. At that moment, he was not a human. He was a marionette controlled by the song. He let himself completely dissolve in this foreign magic. He lost himself in that trance-like state and kept dancing and dancing. He has already forgotten when he started dancing because there was no sense of time in his secret world. There wasn't an early warning sign. Maybe he had been feeling dizzy before, but he hadn't paid attention to it. Suddenly, black spots appeared in his vision, which became bigger and bigger. He almost did not have enough time to let himself safely fall to the dance floor until he lost his ability to move and was forced to fall asleep. As he slowly came back into consciousness, he felt his entire body burning. He felt so hot. He tried to slowly sit up, but was met with another wave of dizziness and immediately lied down. Jimin knew exactly why he fainted, even though his inner critic tried to convince him otherwise. He wasn't sick, he didn't have the flu, and he knew that. The reason why he fainted was that he had not eaten enough for weeks and didn't have enough fuel to sustain his body function. He knew all that, but he couldn't bring himself to eat more. But now he had to eat at least something to get out of this situation. All he had to do was to eat a chocolate bar, which he brought along in his bag. It would bring up his blood sugar and he would feel better after that. Not even trying to stand up, he crawled carefully, not wanting to faint again, to his bag and searched for the snack. Sitting back down and having the bar within reach was the easiest part. Actually eating it was not. Why was that so hard? Objectively, he knew that it was only a chocolate bar, which had approximately 200 calories and wouldn't make him fat. It would just give him enough energy to get up and go home. But his sick mind told him that it was poison, that he wasn't allowed to have it, because he already reached the calorie goal of this day. That he, who was already fat, became the fattest person in the whole world. That he would be a disappointment to the other members, a waste of space, which is therefore going to be replaced soon anyway. His only talent of dancing would fade away because he would be too fat to move delicately. But he had to do it. He had to eat it now. If not, he probably would be found by staff and sent to the hospital, where his sickness would come to light. He let his attention fall to the snack in his hands. He had been unconsciously kneading the package. He hesitantly began to rip it open. Chocolate flavor reached his nose. Denying was impossible. His body was hungry and in need of food, but his mind was screaming at him to not eat it. He took a deep breath and brought the snack to his mouth with shaking hands. He could do that. Come on. He just had to eat it. Eating shouldn't be that hard. But that's too many calories. Why didn't he pack something lighter? That was too much. No. He had to eat it now. He opened his mouth and bit into the bar. He chewed right away and bit into the bar again until there wasn't anything left. He just wanted to get it over without thinking too much. He had done it. He was able to eat the whole bar. Jimin lay back down and sighed. He was glad, but the other side of him hated him for that. The voices became weaker and weaker with every passing second as his energy slowly began to rise. He searched for his bottle of water and took a sip. All he had to do now was to wait until he had enough energy to be able to get up and go home. The weeks following the incident were exhausting. Jimin gradually became weaker and weaker. He wasn't able to eat more and found himself avoiding food rather than actually consuming it. Whenever he began a new day and was eager to start eating, he found himself making up excuses about why he didn't deserve to eat breakfast, that he didn't practice long enough, and so on. One day, he finally had enough. He almost fainted in group practice. Only Namjoon seemed to notice that something was off with him, as he danced to Blood, Sweat and Tears half-heartedly. After they had finished the dance-through, and before anything could happen, Jimin made his way to the toilet, letting a glucose tablet dissolve on his tongue. He breathed heavily, trying to get over the fainting attack as fast as possible. The dancer locked himself in one of the toilet stalls and sat on the toilet as he felt the room moving and his entire body shaking. It was then he realized that his behavior and restrictive eating couldn't go on like that. Not eating nearly enough, but practicing by himself for hours and hours is slowly killing him. But he didn't see a way out of it. It wasn't just neglecting his needs. This was an illness. An illness that would slowly but surely lead to his death. Was he afraid of dying? Of course. But taking his medicine regularly seemed so frightening and impossible. A knock on the stall interrupted Jimin's thoughts. "Jimina! Are you okay?" He heard Namjoon's worried voice. "Yeah, I just felt nauseous all of a sudden. I probably caught a stomach bug or something." "Are you sure? You know, you can always talk to me. I won't judge you. I recently noticed that you're more exhausted than usual and Jimin cut off Namjoon's worry. "Don't worry, I'm doing fine. I'm only getting a little sick. Nothing to worry about." If you say so, then let's head home so you can rest a little. Maybe Young could make you a chicken noodle soup," Namjoon suggested. "Yeah, sure. Please give me a moment. I'll come out once the nausea subsides a little." And with that, he sensed Namjoon stepping out of the bathroom. Why did he lie to his friend? Why did he have to keep it a secret? Jimin knew why. He didn't want to disappoint and worry his leader. There was nothing the leader could do anyway, right? The only thing which might happen is that Namjoon got mad at him for being such a dramatic person. Eating was easy. You just had to put food in your mouth and swallow it. And that was it. Since when did it become a problem? Since when was a spoonful of rice a nightmare? Jimin could only pinpoint certain events. What was the beginning? Was it him looking in the mirror and feeling twice as heavy? Was it the fixation on his weight after the yearly doctor visit? Was it the fans commenting on his social media posts? He honestly didn't remember, but after a while he caught himself skipping meals and practicing dancing more and more. He had been digging himself further and further into his illness. But was it an illness, or was he just really dramatic and childish? Was it that bad? Or was it something that doctors would dismiss as an unhealthy habit from an idol? He needed answers, but didn't want to ask anyone for their advice. Then the internet might be the best idea for finding his answers. After he was swaddled by his band members and served a noodle soup, which he at least tried to eat, but he didn't come very far. His negative thoughts were just too persisting. He forced to himself to eat enough so the others wouldn't notice his struggles. That's what he did all the time anyway. When his bandmates were present, he didn't have a chance to get away with not eating. Of course, they didn't know that he only ate in their presence. One part of his mind was thankful, because that was the only occasion he ate a sustainable meal. The other part was screaming at him and demanding to compensate for his wrongdoing. This time, his mind was too loud, and he was only able to get down half of the portion. An excuse wasn't too hard to find. He still felt nauseous and didn't want to risk throwing up. In the evening, he had time to look for his answers and went on the internet to do so. What did he want to find out? Maybe he should start by reading about eating disorders, because that was what he had, right? The inner critic of his mind dismissed it right away and told him that he was fat and needed to lose weight, that he wasn't sick at all. But he searched for it anyway. Eating disorders are mental health conditions marked by an obsession with food or body shape. They can affect anyone, but are most prevalent among young women. Okay, that was something he already knew. Did it mean because he was a boy that he couldn't have an eating disorder? He needed to check out the symptoms of an eating disorder. Weren't there different types of eating disorders? The most common eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, characterized by restrictive food intake, bulimia nervosa, characterized by binging and compensating for the binging behavior, and binging eating disorder, characterized by binge eating. According to this information, he would most likely have anorexia nervosa. But did he meet all the criteria for this illness? He heard from Namjoon, who was interested in psychology, that there was a classification book of mental illnesses. That's why he went to the website and looked up anorexia nervosa. A person must meet all of the current DSM criteria to be diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. Restriction of food intake leading to weight loss, or a failure to gain weight resulting in a significantly low body weight of what would be expected for someone's age, sex, and height. Fear of becoming fat or gaining weight, and have a disordered view of themselves and of their condition. He could rediscover himself with all of the symptoms. He always thought that his feelings towards his body was just a part of his being. Maybe that was just an early warning sign of this disorder, because it isn't normal to feel utterly disgusted by your own body. He always compensated that feeling with dancing and working out. It didn't matter how long he had been doing that. That feeling never went away. He got used to it, but it became more demanding over time. It was an endless game he couldn't win. What has he done to suffer so greatly? He wasn't willing to lose this game with himself yet. He wanted to improve. If this was an illness, then there should be a way to treat it, right? He could be force-fed, right? There would be a way to treat it, wouldn't it? But was that the treatment? Or was that just a bandage on his open wound, which would not stop bleeding by itself? What do the treatment options look like? Maybe he should do more research on that matter. Treatment for anorexia is generally done using a team approach, which includes doctors, mental health professionals, and dietitians, all with experience in eating disorders. Ongoing therapy and nutrition education is highly important to continued recovery. Cognitive behavior therapy, specifically enhanced cognitive behavior therapy, has been shown to help. The main goal is to normalize eating patterns and behaviors to support weight gain. The second goal is to help change disordered beliefs and thoughts that maintain restrictive eating. As if he didn't expect this. Psychotherapy. He was not opposed to this idea, but there was one problem. He could not go to therapy in secret. He was not only concerned by his band members knowing. That of course would be very unpleasant to tell them and probably embarrassing. But the real issue was the company. Either they would not take him seriously or kick him out. And if they took him seriously, they would forbid him to dance and treat him like a child. And he knew he would maybe need some help, but he didn't want to feel enabled, so what should he do? Maybe he could try it by himself one last time. And if it didn't work, he could maybe confide in someone? Maybe he had the strength to do it by himself. The first step for treating anorexia nervosa is to regain a healthy weight. Meal plans are an essential part of the recovery to restore the weight and keep track of recovery. A dietitian should be consulted to avoid refeeding syndrome. Alone the word gain made him uneasy. Objectively, he knew his weight was far too low, but his disordered view of his body made him believe otherwise. Perhaps he could trick his mind by strictly following a plan, to shut out his disordered thoughts, seeing it as a test which he needed to do perfectly, which meant eating everything that he wrote down. It was worth a try. After he had informed himself about how much he should start eating in the beginning, he would eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the members. On top of that, he had to eat 3 snacks. He would try to eat as much as the others. Of course, it would have been better to measure the food, but if he did that, the others would ask questions, which he didn't want. He could do that by himself. The first full meal he had to eat according to his plan was breakfast. Normally, he would always wake up an hour earlier and go to the studio, saying that he was going to grab something to eat on his way. He never did. But this time, he surprised the members by showing up in the dining room. "Jimina, what are you still doing here? Are you still feeling sick?" Seokjin's face showed pure confusion as he stir-fried some vegetables. What now? He should have thought about an explanation, because he usually strictly followed his routine. I feel okay. I just thought that I spent less time with you guys in the last weeks, and I would like to have more quality time with you. Is that a problem?" He stumbled off his words due to anxiety. Good answer. That was close. Hopefully, they stopped asking questions. He just wanted to get over eating as soon as possible. The longer he was there, the worse his thoughts were going to be. He just had to have breakfast, so he could cross it out on his plan. No, of course not. We appreciate your presence. I was just confused because you always enjoy dancing alone in the morning. But to be honest, in my opinion, your dancing doesn't need improvement at all. Do you want to have breakfast with us? We're having bibimbap, the oldest offered with a small smile on his face. Wanting? No, absolutely not. But it was on his plan, so he had to do it. That was the first step of recovery. Eating his damn meals. That was all. That was his cure. Sure, I love your cooking anyway. Jimin almost failed at being convincing with his shaky voice. He sat down at the table anyway, trying to hide his shaking hands under it. He didn't know why it was even harder now that he decided to choose recovery. Gaining weight is making you to the ugliest member. Someone like you doesn't deserve to eat. Eating is for winners, not for losers. How dare you take something you don't deserve? What are you? You're a fat pig, only deserving to be butchered. Jimin tried to take a deep breath, not wanting the others to pick up on his anxious behavior. It was just food, his fuel to survive. Jungkook came to the table to serve the plates of food for every present member. As the bowl of bibimbap was placed before him, he felt the voices again rising in their aggressiveness. Now he was forced to sit there and eat, because the members would ask questions if he stormed out of the room. As he looked up from his plate, Seokjin and Yoongi were already fully engulfed in ingesting their food. However, Hoseok was staring at him, noticing that Jimin had not yet eaten a bite. Now he had no chance to get out of the situation without eating his meal. The older rapper was always worried about his friends, and he was also a big fan of addressing the issue. Addressing it was the opposite of what Jimin needed right now. Consequently, he took another breath, shut his eyes, and put a chopstick full in his mouth and chewed and swallowed. His mind started to object, but he just took another bite, then another. He tried to eat as fast as possible, so he could be over with eating as fast as possible. It was hard to take yet another bite, because all of a sudden he felt so much fear of gaining weight. He just kept eating until his bowl was empty. He needed to accomplish his plan. Young? Young! What? Jimin felt himself snapping annoyingly at the disruption of his thoughts. As he slowly snapped out of his inner struggles, he found all the others' eyes on him. Jimina, Jungkook only asked you if you were okay. You were shoving your foot down your throat. No need to be disrespectful, Yoongi scolded him. But seriously, Jimina, is everything alright? You seem to be spaced out for a bit. Yoongi looked at him with concern written all over his face. Of course, he had to mess up his first try in recovery. Now the whole BTS was disappointed in him. Another reason, his disordered thoughts told him not to deserve eating. Sorry, I didn't mean to, just a headache, the dancer mumbled, failing to keep eye contact with the youngest. It's okay. But are you sure you are okay? The Magna looked him directly into his eyes. Jimin stood up and went over to Jungkook, embracing him into a hug. Don't worry, I'm just tired, Jimin whispered to the youngest, still hugging him. His plan worked for exactly another 3 days. It seemed impossible, but he was able to eat, ignoring the voices. But on the 3rd day, they had pizza as dinner. Why did it have to be pizza? It was his fear food after all. Even so, Jimin forced himself to eat the whole pizza. What he didn't expect was the aftermath. Normally, his thoughts were pretty loud during the intake. But this time, he was able to blend them out by taking part in conversations with his bandmates. Taeyong was telling him about a new song idea he had in mind and asked him for his opinion. He spoke with Hoseok about the new song by Justin Bieber. He was calm for the first time while eating his pizza. Jimin found himself turning and turning in his bed at night. His mind didn't seem to shut up. Are you out of your lunatic mind? A pizza? At the next concert, you're going to break the stage with your fat body. Do you know how many calories a pizza has? At least 1,000 calories. That means you have exceeded your allowed calorie intake by far. Do you know what this means? Everyone is going to call you mochi. Not because you're cute, but because you're fat. Why else would our fans compare you with candy? They think that you have no control over overeating, and today you proved them right, Jimin. There's a way to put it right. You could get rid of the food. You have to get rid of the food right now. If not, you're going to be Korea's next fat model. Believe me, you don't want that. As these thoughts were flooding in his head, he made his way to the bathroom. "You are going to disappoint the members and army. There is no other way, and you know it." Jimin was crying in front of the toilet. "You are a complete disappointment. You are worthless. After gaining weight, there is nothing worthy of you. You don't deserve anything, and you want to call yourself a role model? Pathetic." Jimin couldn't resist these voices anymore and leaned forward, shoving his fingers in his throat until he gagged. His brain became so foggy that it slipped his mind about what he was doing. After he was finished, he moved away from the toilet, realizing what he had done. His throat was burning with acid. That was not nothing. That was incredibly dangerous. His throat could take extreme damage, and his singing could suffer. What had he done? Why was his throat so painful? Shit! He underestimated his abilities. He needed help. That was nothing he could do on his own. He knew himself in that matter. That wouldn't be the only time he purged. That was it. He needed help. Professional help. Maybe therapy. But the most important part was that he confided in someone. But who should he talk to? Whilst he was thinking about whom he should speak to, he cleaned the toilet seat, brushed his teeth, and got rid of all the evidence from the purge, including the smell. How could vomit smell this bad? A deodorant had to fix it. One problem solved. But whom should he tell about his problem? He believed Jungkook and Taeyong wouldn't be able to deal with his problems. Also, they were younger than him, and he didn't like the idea of a weak Young. That left Yoongi, Hoseok, Namjoon, and Seokjin. The thing was that the only person who could help him and in emergency talk with the company would be the leader anyway. Seokjin, Yoongi, and Hoseok would probably end up telling Namjoon. Wasn't that the job of a leader, to take care of the members? But was he ready to tell him what is going on with him? Not necessarily. But there was no plan B, because this behavior and thoughts definitely won't stop overnight. That was why he had to bite the bullet and open up. He wanted to get better, enjoy his meals instead of being anxious. He longed for feeling better in his body, feeling free, having a day without thinking about food in a negative matter, having more energy, feeling free. If the price he had to pay was being kicked out of the company, so be it. If this went on like that, he would not survive the next comeback. He was ill, and he needed treatment, or at least support from his friends. Surely, he was afraid of the leader knowing. He possibly could make everything worse by saying the wrong words, but there was no alternative. He tried to fix it himself, but failed extremely. That was the last straw, and he knew it. He didn't want to die. All he wanted was to be happy with himself. And he was sure that there was another way, losing weight. His thoughts had convinced him otherwise, but that was wrong. He deserved help because he was a human. He didn't believe it yet, but maybe it was true. Jimin woke up with a sore throat, immediately reminding him of what had happened the previous night. His sleep was filled with restlessness and anxious thoughts. Jimin turned around, wanting to fall asleep again and forgetting his problems. Should he just go on with the day as if nothing had happened? The vocal practice would be even more exhausting today. However, that was what you get if you mess up as he did. He deserved to suffer. Sleeping into endlessness would have been the only escape from his problems. But he didn't want to die just yet. Didn't want to lose his only passion. Today was the day he was going to tell the leader about his dangerous habits. It was a promise he gave himself yesterday, and the promise was not meant to be broken. Forgetting would have been so much easier, but despite his mind telling him, he strongly believed that he wasn't a coward. He would have been one if he decided not to talk about his struggles and to ask for help. The definition of courage is the ability to do something even though it is frightening, and he was ready to address his mental health issues because he was longing for healing. After their schedule, he consequently found himself in front of Namjoon's studio. As he was on the verge of making him noticeable, he paused, hearing his heart rate increasing in speed. Taking a breath, he repeated the mantra, "It's going to be fine, it's going to be fine," over and over again. And then he knocked on the door. "Young, do you have a moment?" First, there was no reaction. Then he heard shuffling from the other side of the door, until the door was opened by Seung with dark spots under his eyes and tousled hair. Okay, that was not a good time to have this kind of talk. He had woken up Namjoon, who was probably so exhausted from his additional leader tasks, and now here he was, adding a huge problem on top of his workload. He should leave and deal with his small problems by himself. It was not worth it anyway. What could his leader help him with, his inner demons anyway? Jimin was in the process of turning around as Namjoon spoke with his raspy voice. "Where are you going? I thought you needed something?" "It's okay, never mind, just forget I was here." Jimin stuttered, turning around, being on the brink of storming out, when Namjoon interrupted him with his serious leader voice. "Jimina, come inside. Don't worry about me, you need a moment and I'm eager to give that moment to you. I promised you could always come talk with me, and so be it." The dancer obeyed, not missing the slight concern in the eyes of the leader. "What did you want to talk about, Jimina?" The leader sat down on the couch, unfolding his hands and arms. I have a problem." The younger one picked on his nails. "Do you need help with your solo? I told you before that I'm happy to help with the production. No reason to be embarrassed." Namjoon was relieved. "No, it's not that. I've been having some issues lately and I think I need help." Jimin had trouble maintaining eye contact. "That's completely fine. We are all facing problems these days. Would you like to elaborate on those issues?" Namjoon replied with such a calm voice as if Jimin would have been a wounded animal. "Before I tell you, could you promise me not to get mad?" He whispered. "Of course. I have a serious issue with food, Young. I can't eat without thinking about how fat of a person I am, how I'm going to disappoint everyone around me. Every time I try to eat, my thoughts go wild and I don't know how to fix it. I want to eat, but I just can't. Every time I look in the mirror, I see fat, nothing more. I feel dizzy and lightheaded all the time, and the reason I'm still functioning is that I practically have to force myself to eat." Jimin's eyes began to water. "I try to work on it myself, but it just got worse and worse." Jimin's breath became shallow. "I can't go on like this." The longer he spoke, the more of his hidden secrets spilled. Jimin didn't care anymore. He just wanted to be okay. He told Namjoon how it started, how many times he had fainted, how many times he avoided and skipped meals, how he tried to help himself with informing himself about the disorder and making meal plans. "And yesterday, I made myself throw up after we had had pizza. I'm so sorry, as I had realized what I had been doing. The damage was already done. Please don't hate me." Now his secret was out. His shameful disorder was open on display. Jimin just let his tears fall freely. He halted for a moment as he felt arms embracing him. "I'm so proud of you for opening up to me, Jimina. I know that must have been a difficult decision to make. That is a sign of strength." He let himself be soothed by the other's reassuring words, let himself fully calm down, while Namjoon was stroking his back up and down, letting himself feel completely safe, forgetting what he had confessed. Time seemed to have stopped. He was there with his friend, seeking comfort, not knowing that he was so desperately looking for someone, taking his pain seriously, not questioning his disorder. "Jimina, I promise you, it's going to get better. It may not look like it, but you already showed so much strength and courage for even admitting to yourself that you have a problem. I can't promise you that it's going to be easy to recover, but I can promise you that I and the others will support you in every way possible." Namjoon moved a hair strand out of Jimin's face. "Are you open for some questions? If it's too much for you at the moment, I can wait. It's all about what you want and are ready to talk about." He felt his energy already exhausted, but some question would not change that dramatically. "Ask away," he breathed. "Are you comfortable with the others knowing? If you don't want to share it, it's okay too. I only think it would be a larger support system," Namjoon suggested. He already expected a question and nodded. "Good. There is another question I'd like to have an answer to. If you don't want to answer, I completely understand, but please say that instead of lying. I won't be mad. The reason why I want to know this is because I went through the episodes of depression by myself, and I know how the voices in your head could be tricking you into believing things." The dancer felt the leader's body stiffening a little. "Are you having or have you had any suicidal thoughts?" That explained Namjoon's change of behavior. The question shocked him a bit, but he kind of had expected it. Did he have any suicidal thoughts? What counted as a suicidal thought? I don't think so. I occasionally feel worthless and not deserving of anything, but I don't want to die young. I'm afraid of anorexia slowly killing me, and I'm not able to resist it." New tears made their way down Jimin's face, and his whole body started to shake again. He didn't want to die. He just wanted to live, but he was so afraid for how long he could go on. His disorder was so demanding and controlling. "It's going to be alright, Jimina. The night is the darkest right before the sun rises." That leads me to the next question, and I would like to stress once more that you're the one making the decision. I only tell you what I'm thinking. I'm not an expert in that field. He took a breath. "We can certainly try to support you by ourselves. And that's what we try if you disagree with what I propose. There are two problems. Recovery is a full-time job. You mentioned you need a meal plan you have to follow, probably supervision after meals, and you perhaps should not dance if you feel dizzy all the time. Those are circumstances which are almost impossible to hide from the company. Believe me, Bang PD won't kick you out. He didn't kick me out either because of my depression." He was afraid of the reaction, but he agreed that it would be the best course of action. "Okay," Jim signed, pausing to wipe his nose on his sleeve. "I'm okay with informing him." "I'm glad. This leads me to the last question. Anorexia is a serious illness, Jimina, and I'm not sure if we have the skills to help you on your own. You said earlier you have informed yourself about the disorder. As far as I know, and what I have experienced with my recovery from depression, it only got truly better as I had started to see a therapist. It seems to be scary to talk with a stranger about how you feel and about your fears, but it helped me the most. Other than that, I feel like it is extremely important to monitor your health. You complained about being lightheaded and dizzy. That is likely a sign of malnourishment. That being the case, I'm convinced that medical and nutritional supervision is necessary. I know. I guess I'm only afraid that they're going to treat me differently. I'm an adult, not a teenager. I don't want people treating me like a toddler who can't take care of himself. I need support. I surely have to be forced to do the right thing sometimes, but I don't want to lose my dignity over it. I hope you can understand. He took a shuddering breath. When it comes to therapeutic and medical care, I completely agree with you. It's pretty dangerous. My throat is still burning and I'm too weak to dance for too long. Jimin let him be released from the hug so he could hold eye contact with Namjoon, who looked at him with pure appreciation. I understand your concern, and it truly will take some time to accept and adjust to the change. I don't think the others are going to see you differently. It's hard to see someone you love in pain, and without a doubt they want to help you. There might be moments where they don't understand why you can't eat or do certain things, forgetting that you have an illness and not just being stubborn. For them, it's only a banana. For you, it's a death sentence. This might be confusing to them, but that's nothing a conversation can't fix, the leader explained calmly. Namjoon was good at these things. No wonder he became a leader. Do you have anything else you'd like to ask me? Namjoon leaned a bit back. I still have to eat something today. Could you maybe eat with me? Jimin slumped his shoulders. It would be a pleasure. Namjoon cracked a little smile. Are you okay with some leftover takeout? If not, we could head home and find something healthier there, he heard Namjoon proposing. I'm more afraid of fast foods, but finding something different would just alleviate my fear. My mind is going to resist either way. It's already racing. Just distract me and don't be mad if I have to stop at some point. Jimin clarified with a sigh. Understood. Are you feeling up to talking with the company and the members tomorrow? I'm going to accompany you, of course, Namjoon suggested. Not really, but I have to get it over with, nevertheless. Jimin chuckled sarcastically. Then let's call it a night. Namjoon was standing up. How is your English learning going? I still have no jams. Jim laughed, being caught off guard. Recovery won't be easy. But he was hoping for more good days to come. He was ready to take the risk and spread his wings. Read by Vero.